Hey, everybody. All seven of us, eight counting myself. It's okay. We got some good folks here. I got a lot going on, and I just don't have time to record and edit a video and put it together. Two different softwares, uploading it, and so you know what? I just said we're going live, and that might be the case for a little while. April, I learned a lesson when I was extremely sick and ill. I was absent, and it really hurt the algorithms and not LightBurn and YouTube, and I just plummeted in a lot of the analytics, and it hurt. So I cannot afford to be absent like that. And there've been a few questions that have come up since Saturday, and I've helped out quite a few people. And said, you know what, if one or more people have this question, and there's probably quite a few that either aren't, posing the question, or they just like, what, or it just misses them completely. So I'm going to address two things in this live. I'm going to, why do I do certain things with creating duplicates, using them for cut paths, and then I do this to eliminate the potential of double burns. And what's a double burn? Well, I'm going to show you that. And then we're also going to design this in real time. This is an awards plaque that I made. It's a 4-layer awards plaque. And we're going to design this start to finish minus the badge. But this could be, a superstar or a rising star or just any kind of awards plaque. And I'm going to talk to you about the different ways that I worked on the design and the wood grains and all the thought that went into this whole design process down to the finish. And this is already on the website. It's on hobowithwood.com. I think it's on there for $3, $3.95 or something like that, minus the badge. The badge wasn't mine. This is one that badges, and somebody's even commented about how nice this one looked. Badges are really tough to get into LightBurn and get all the detail. And I was fortunate enough to find this one on Etsy. It looked really good, but it wasn't quite up to hobo standards. I still had to do some doctoring and some fixing and fix a few things. But it was a nice file to start out with. It only needed a little bit of work. So since it's not my badge, even though I've modified this and cleaned it up, it's not my badge, not my artwork. I'm not going to put this out there for sale. I did find that South Carolina Trooper badge on Etsy. You can search and find it there too. And with everything that I've got going on, I cannot afford to mute my phone right now. And I'm expecting some phone calls that I cannot miss. So if the phone rings, I'm going to have to pull a rude one and I'll answer. And if it's certain things that I've got to address, I'll just have to mute my mic real quick, address it, and come right back to you. But my hands are tied right now. I don't have any choice. So, well, we got 26, 27 people in here. All right. Well, good. I appreciate you guys showing up and hanging out. And I'm going to go over these things and I'll address questions. All of the regulars know that when you have a question about what's going on, precede your question with the question mark. Put the question mark in first, maybe even a couple, 2 or 3, and then your question. That gets my attention because I don't read everybody's comments or I'd be going. And that's not entertaining. But I look for those question marks and I go, okay, question. You guys feel free to converse, obviously, amongst yourselves. But if you're busy talking to each other, then you're not watching me and you're not learning anything. But then you might not need to learn it because you already know it, more than I do too. So, and there's always more than one way to do things in LightBurn. And you may see a new way to do something that you're doing something, or vice versa, but what I'm going to show you is how I do what I do when I do what I do. All right. Okay. So again, thank you all for being here. I'm going to switch over to LightBurn. What I'm going to address first is in the tent video where I've got I started out with just a plain SVG, right? There wasn't any additional layers. That was one burn, one engrave. And I said, that's not hobo standards at all. I needed more. So I created all the multiple layers and the different scan angles to create the dimensions of the tent. So it's not just one dimensional flat engraving. But to do that, it required, in fact, this one I did not do quite correctly. Where's it at? Right there. See how that rope ends at the bottom of the tent? This is a failure on my part. I didn't get it correctly. It needed to go actually from there up to the corner of that little tarp there. And so this one is not any good. This is what it should have looked like this. And how did I, create where my fingers did that? And I needed to have that in a solid feel, but then this behind it is in a larger lines per inch or a larger LPI. And I did not need that LPI to engrave fully across that and then go back and double burn it again. It changes the look. So that's what we're going to show here in just a second. And I see a question mark already. Where do I find the utility? Where do I find the utility that eliminates the cutting of two adjoining lines? That might be what I'm getting ready to be talking about, Richard. Let me see. Where do I find the utility that eliminates the cutting? Oh, overlapping lines. So if you're talking about where they overlap and you don't want to cut it twice. Is that what you're talking about, Richard? Eliminating overlapping lines? I'll show you that real fast if that's what you're talking about. Come on, get them fingers tapping. All right. I'm going to assume, Richard, that's what you're talking about. Where do I find the utility that eliminates the cutting of two adjoining lines? Adjoining, overlapping, and not joining, but overlapping. Go over here to LightBurn. LightBurn. If you go to your laser control tab, laser, and then you go to optimization settings. Down at the bottom right here is remove overlapping lines. Turn that on, and I think the default is a 0.025 millimeter margin of error as far as if they're any closer than that, LightBurn thinks it's a overlapping line. So, Richard, I still haven't seen any clarification, but if that's what you're referring to, that's where you find it. There's the settings for removing overlapping lines. Okay, now, Andy, regular viewer and supporter, asked in the YouTube comments about why I did a certain thing with creating duplicates and then using them as cut paths and different things, and didn't quite understand. I explained it, and he said, I got it. I think maybe. So, Andy, you're not in the stream right now, but you'll probably watch this on replay, and I'm going to show everybody what you were trying to understand. So and I'm not going to do out of 10. I'm just going to create a couple of shapes. So if I've got a large shape here in the double alt layer, and it's in a fill mode, it's a great big block, and I wanted to put a door right here. Well, I could come right there and just draw it out, and well, there you go. That eliminates that. That if I go and look at this preview, then all that's going to be engraved, except that won't. And if you had a third object, and I'm going to put this on line mode for a second. If I had a third object that was going to be here, that was going to be on top of that opening, where'd you go? I don't know what happened there. All right. If say this is the front of a house and this is somebody standing in front of the house, this is going to be a body or a person. And that was going to be on a different layer. And I'm going to go to that layer now, and I'm going to change a few things. We're going to put it in fill mode, and then I'm going to change the scan angle on it and tell it to scan at 22 degrees. And we're going to give it a 1 millimeter line interval. And put the black layer back on fill. So now that person is standing there in front of the house, in front of the door, and I want that person to be engraved, obviously, in front of the house. Well, if I select everything and look at the preview, there's the fascia of the house, there's the door opening, and here is the person, but the house is engraved behind the person, and then the person's there too. And also you see this is not enclosed, so I'd want to make that better, give it more definition by putting a line after fill. So go back to that layer and come over here to the plus sign and create a sub layer in line mode, and then set the powers as they need to be. Say okay. And now if I go back and look at that preview, okay, well, that gives that definition, but I've still got a problem with the house is engraved and then the person is engraved. And that's going to screw up that whole engraving. That is the double burn that I'm referring to in the thumbnail. How do you eliminate that double burn? Well, in the tent video, when I was doing that rope, I did that, but I did not explain. And my regular viewers know that my videos can go on, and I'm not explaining everything that I'm doing, because if I did, it'd be another 5-hour live, and we don't all have time for that. So some of the things do get skipped and questions arise, and that's where we're at. And that's why we're doing this. So in order to eliminate that double burn, I have to cut that shape of that person, the rope, whatever that is. I have to eliminate it from the face of the tent, the house, whatever it is. That other layer, it needs to be eliminated. And here's a couple of problems whenever you're running into that. If I put this back, and here's another trick that another YouTube watcher and commented on. I was going back and forth changing these from fill to line, and if I only needed to change that black layer and put it in a line mode temporarily, that's easy enough. And right now I need to put them both in line mode. Well, I'm gonna put this back in fill. And if you're, depending on your computer and your settings in LightBurn, you may have in your Windows setting up here, if you have a fast enough processor and enough speed, you might be in filled smooth. If you've got a little bit slower, you might be in filled coarse. And that whenever you're in fill mode, that's what it's going to do. Fill those layers up. But there's also a wireframe mode, wireframe smooth and coarse. And with these being squares, I don't know if you'll see a difference here. There, it's still in fill mode, but because I changed it to wireframe mode, it's now easier for me to work with and adjust those images, just like I was going to put it in line mode over here. But it does it with all of those layers all at once. Let's see here. So go back to Windows, and I'll see if I can see any difference in coarse. All right, you don't see any difference in coarse because these rectangles don't show it up. But if you had an elaborate image, a lot of lines and details and curves, when you're in the coarse wireframe mode, you'd see a whole lot more angles. This just gives it a lot smoother. But squirrel, I needed to put that in line mode, and that was an easy way to put everything in line mode without putting the actual modes in line. So to eliminate that double burn, I need to take my person, if whatever that is, it's in front of the house, and I need to eliminate this area here that's directly behind the person. Well, if first problem you got is if I take the house there and say A subtract B using the Boolean tools, well, that's not the desired result I wanted. And plus now my person's gone. And it's, not, this is still got a line going through there. And that's not cool. If this had a line after field, that line would actually show up. So that was not the result that I wanted. So another thing that I do whenever, whenever I created the tent, I showed you in preview by just simply putting that small rectangle in front of the big, or on top of the big one, it created that hole or that doorway. But it's not grouped with it, and it's not subtracted from the large square. So if you go back to, in fact, I'm going to temporarily just delete this one. So if I go back to my large one, and now I say A, and then subtract that rectangle, that door, that is now grouped to those. That's all one piece instead of it being an individual piece. But when I said it's grouped to that, it's essentially the same thing. I did the Boolean subtract tools, and let's see what happens when I put it in fill. There in the preview, even though I've got it in the wireframe, the preview shows it in fill mode. So there, I did a subtraction, and it gave me the desired result. But if I go back and undo, there's the two individual pieces. There's A and B. But if I just group them, that's the exact same thing as the subtraction tool. It gives me the same result. So there's another example of there's always more than one way to do things in LightBurn. But now I need to get that person standing in front of the house and eliminate the house that's behind him. I don't want that double burn. So what I do is I duplicate the person, Control D, duplicate that. And now I will use A subtract B, the duplicate there. And that left since I duplicated it, it still got the person there. And if I turn that off so you don't see it, I'll even show it. It cut that out completely. It cut out both the line for the doorway and the rest of the house. We put that back on there and go back to and let's see, did I still have my settings right? Yep. And now go to the preview. Did I not have that? That's field. All right, let's change my preview, my field smooth. There we go. And now preview. Where is my person? Fill, line after fill. Oh, I don't have it selected. Durr. Lights are on, but nobody's home. All right. So let's select it all this time. And now look at preview. And there you go. See, now you don't have that double burn. The house or whatever, the tent, whatever object is behind it is burnt right up to that person or that dog or that whirligig, but not double burned behind it. And you get that result that you're looking for without the double burn. And double burns will ruin your design faster than about anything. But I will create a duplicate, use it as a cutting tool to cut out the desired piece that I want eliminated. But if you don't duplicate it first, well, when you do that cut, it's gone. So you got to duplicate first, then cut your shape out, and you're left with your original. And there you go. All right. So any questions on that? Any questions at all on that? Because now we're going to jump over to designing the awards plaque. And when I want to design this, it's really quick. And I'm going to do it start to finish, 4 layers. It is, as I said, it's already available on hobowithwood.com minus the badge. The badge was not my artwork, so I can't sell that. Well, I'm not supposed to, and I won't. All right, moving quickly. Any questions before I jump forward here? Let's see, close that. All right. Okay, we're going to now move forward to designing the award plaque. So clear that, delete that. Goodbye. All right. So I made this stuff with the wood that I got from my project packs from West Penn Hardwood. And so I've got these hardwoods that are laying around here that I have in all kinds of different widths. And so I went and grabbed this up and was like, okay, well, I got a few pieces of cherry that are, right at 6 or 7 inches wide. And I've got some of this walnut, this padauk, I got this maple. And then once I had seen what I had to work with, then I created my design based on what I had to cut it out of. So I will allow my material to dictate what that shape's going to, how am I going to form that? And this one is really, really simple. It is, like I said, 4 layers, and the two primary, or the two big, or the back layers are on the cherry wood. And I'll flip it around so you can see it there. On the back side, you see only the 1 layer, and on the front side, it's a 5 millimeter offset there. But as it goes down the side of this, that offset gets smaller and smaller until they're actually the same distance here at the bottom. That corner is the same, and you'll see that in the design in a minute. But I did that because that corner is also my alignment points for all of the layers. So the big layer, then I did the second layer that started at those 2 points, and then it came up and came in 5 millimeters on each side and down. And that center point, the apex there, it's not in the center. I moved it over just for the heck of it. But then the shooting stars, those are lined up there on that corner, which is the same corner as the other 2 layers. And then that corner matches up with the other 2 layers. So those 3, the design aids in its alignment and assembly. And then the stars are obviously just stars laid on top of the shooting star trail. And then this piece, and this, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can approach this piece down here. I opted to leave it on just the first layer. You could, if you didn't want to have that gap there or that second layer exposed, you could actually do that second layer with that exact same rectangle, so that then the name engraving plate would be on a 3rd layer, and the second layer would be hidden at the bottom, but the starburst or the shooting stars, that padauk, would still be on the same level as this. So I was like, well, they're not going to all match up anyway. So I opted for the extra dimension and depth to leave it recessed, but that's the beauty of designing, and you're designing your own thing. You make your own thing to make it the way you want it to look. So let's jump over to LightBurn and let's put this together and show you how quick this was to do. Sell the badge. Nah, can't sell the badge. Ain't mine. But like I said, Etsy, just search on Etsy for South Carolina Trooper if you needed a trooper badge. It does need a little bit of work, but not much. It's a really good piece. Switch to LightBurn. All right. So as I said, first thing I did was, well, how wide is my material? So I said, okay, in fact, you know what? Let's open up open the file. I said this file was available on hobowithwood.com, and this is what you get when you open the file. I've got a photograph showing you what I did with the badge there, and then you've got all the layers set up. That's on there. You can leave community service appreciation on there, or you can make it, you know, shooting star, rising star, or whatever you want. Make it, say whatever you want. And then I've got an image here showing you all the layers stacked together and how I assembled it. But this is the back piece. And as you see, it is 6.6 inches, because I think I was about 6.75 or just under 7 inches in width on my material that I had to work with. So we're going to take all of this and just shed it right over here. And I started out with a rectangle. Put it on my cut layer. And let's just tell it to be 6.5 inches wide. And however tall you want it to be. Let's make it 9 inches here. I unlock my aspect ratio, 9 inches. All right, so that's just a basic rectangle. And now I need to convert that rectangle to a shape. So I'm going to, or to a path, because it is a shape and I need it to be a path. So I right click, convert to a path, go into node editing, and I'm going to create my funny little whatever that shape is. I don't know if it even has a name. So first, I'm just going to come over here and put a node. We'll put it right about there by hitting the letter I for insert. Then I'm going to select this node, and I'm going to select this node, holding the shift key. So I've got both of those selected. Now, since I want my overall height to be 9 inches, I selected these two, leaving that one alone. So now I can just use my arrow keys, and I'm set right now with my arrow keys to move. I think it's 1 millimeter. Let's go to convert to, or change that to millimeters settings. Yeah, and I'm actually going to change it. I'm going to make this arrow movement 5 millimeters, shift arrow 1 millimeter, and control arrow 0.5 millimeter. All right, now I'll say okay. Now I've still got both of those selected, and by using my arrow keys and arrowing down one time, it'll move it down 5 millimeters. Oh, come on. Select and hold shift and select, and now down. It's 5 millimeters and 10 millimeters, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. I think I like 50 there better. Well, actually, you know what? I even went more than that. We'll just bring it on down to wherever. And like I said, this is just what appeals to you. Now I got that, and now I'm going to select one corner at a time and bring this in 5, 10, 15, and bring this one in 5, 10, 15. And say, okay, I like that pretty good. And I'm going to now set, with that selected, say Control D and duplicate this. Go back to node editing. And I'm going to leave those corner nodes right where they're at, because those are my alignment points. And here, I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to come in 5, select this one, come down 5, select that one, and come in 5. Is that enough? And actually, I want it to be a little more than that. So what's another 5? No, that's too much. So I'm going to hold my shift key and come in 1, 2, do the same thing over here, 1, 2, and this one down 1, 2. And I actually want to bring, I don't want to keep this one parallel or on the same toolpath or plane, if you will. So if I come up here and put that right there, so you can see, I don't want to keep those together. So I'm going to bring this down as well a little bit to node editing. And now I'm going to select both of those, hold my shift button, and come down 1, 2, and I think that looks okay. And again, this, especially since this is an asymmetrical piece, this, this is just what looks good, what appeals to you. So now I've got 1, 2 layers, and now I need to create my nameplate for the bottom. So if this is, what would I do? 6.5 inches. Yeah, 6.5 inches. So if I come down here and draw out a plate and tell it I want it to be 6.5 by 1 inch, what I just do, I did 10, undo 10 or 1 inch. And now, and that's actually a little big. Let's make it 3/4 inch, 0.75. That's better. Now, with that selected, hold my shift button, select this piece here. I'm going to align it to center. And now, since I'm on my work bed, and we discussed this in one of the videos, I used to only be able to get the docking tools to work when the objects were on the work area. But there was somebody in a stream that said, hey, it works for me, but we figured out that it works under certain conditions when you're off of the work bed. And I don't remember what those conditions were. And I only use docking tools whenever I'm on the work bed, because that's the way I learned to use my docking tools. But you can use docking to align them to each other, or you can use the alignment tools to dock them next to each other. And I'll show you both of those. So right now I took that and I put it to the vertical center of that piece. And since I'm on the work bed, I can use the docking tools that are up here. And when you're using docking, if you want to butt them up against each other, you need to have your padding set to 0. And then select the piece you want to move. Padding's at 0. And these 4 tools are your docking tools. And it has the little squiggly lines at the side or the bottom or the top of the rectangle. The rectangle is the piece that's moving, or the square, I should say. The square is the piece that's moving. And here, if you hover over it, it'll highlight and tell you dock objects leftward, dock objects rightward, upward, and downward. But those squiggly little lines are the movement arrows. And I want to dock this piece up. So I'm just going to select it and then just dock it up. And that's going to dock it right to the bottom of that shape, whatever it is. And then I can hold my shift button and select that shape and weld it. And now that's welded together, and that's going to be the backboard. This is the second layer. But that's just one way you can do that. Now let's look at using the alignment tools to accomplish the same thing. If I undo all that, my mouse button is, or not my mouse. Okay, there we go. So that's all undone. And now the alignment tools will work 100% of the time, whether you're on the work bed or off the work bed. And if I want to, and I'm going to go ahead and put this one on a tool path and turn it off for right now. So now you're just seeing the black layer and this nameplate. Alignment tools is in arrange, not alignment, distribute. Again, there, lights on, nobody's home. The distribute tools will move the pieces together. The alignment tools are also those center align, vertical align, align to the left, align to the right. But the distribute tools do not have a shortcut across the top of the menu. The distribute tools are only hotkeys, shortcut keys. And that's here in the arrange. Here's the alignment. And if you look, there are the same emblems that you see up here at the top, but the distribute is here. And I told you another fib. The distribute tools do have a shortcut up there in the top. That's these distribute here, where if you want to distribute them with space in between them, and that's the only time I use these hotkeys, is distribute them vertically and horizontally with space between them. But there's also distribute, and I did scrambled the brain. And a few of you know everything I got going on. A few of you don't. You just have to be patient with me for a little while. I'm not going to be absent, but I might be absent-minded. And there's a little difference there. but the move function of the alignment tools does not have a shortcut. Those are hotkeys only. And that's the Alt-Shift-H and the Alt-Shift-V. Alt-Shift-H and the Alt-Shift-V. And it works by selecting the first piece, holding your Shift key, selecting the second piece. And if you want to move those together, Alt-Shift-V, and that will vertically move those together. And the first piece that you select is the piece that will move. So if I undo that and I select the top piece and then select the bottom piece, Alt-Shift-V will move the top piece down. So undo. And now if you happen to be like me and you don't know your right from your left half the time, and you're like horizontal or vertical, I can't remember what, and I drew Alt-Shift-H right here, that's going to go, uh-oh, that wasn't what I wanted. Just do your undo and Alt-Shift-V, and that's what you wanted. And then you can just simply hit weld, and there you got it. Turn your toolpath back on, put the toolpath back on your cut path. And I don't know. I just restarted my computer before going live with you guys. And I had this problem a few weeks ago where my mouse was acting up and then it quit. Well, now it's acting up again. But there's your first two layers. And like I said, I did those in cherry. And if you wanted to exaggerate that offset, just go back to your nodes, and I've got mine set on 5 millimeters. We'll drop it down to there, another 5, and we'll come in another 5 and come in another 5. And that's starting to look a little bit wonky. We'll come down 1, 2, and a half. And again, especially since this is an asymmetrical piece, that looks okay. It's by moving the pieces, the nodes, the opposite nodes simultaneously at the same time, it keeps that asymmetry symmetrical. Does that make sense? So there are the first two layers. And now I need to create the starburst, the trail of the shooting stars. And I need to create the stars. So let's draw the star first. Automatic. And to draw a star in LightBurn, if you don't already have one in your art library, then come over here to polygon. Doesn't matter what. Right now, we're just going to draw whatever the polygon is, 5, 6-sided. It's a 6-sided automatically. In order to draw out a uniform or symmetrical polygon, then you need to hold your shift button while you draw that out. If you don't, then you get it. It'll get you to this right here, and it can stretch out in any different direction. But by holding shift button, it'll just draw it out uniformly, and that's what we need to draw a star. And I'm going to bring that up here and then put in my pencil tool. And I'm actually, before I do that, I got to make it a pentagon. I need to make it 5 sides. And to do that, you use your shape properties. I have my shape properties open down here, and here it says 6 sides. But if you do not have shape properties showing or open, it is in your windows up here, shape properties. Check it to turn it on, and then you'll have access to modify your shapes. So select that piece, go to shape properties, and I need a 5 side. Now I've got a pentagon. It's upside down, so I'm going to mirror that. And now that's right, and say okay. All right, got a quick question. Looks like the inner right line is closer to the outside line than the left one. Well, it may look that way, but it is not, because I moved them all the same amount, counting them out. And that may be because of the asymmetry of that piece. And this is your design. Do what you want to do with it. And because it is asymmetrical, there are times that moving things uniformly will create the illusion that it's something was different there. And I'll do this all the time whenever I'm centering a graphic in a circle or within a certain region. If there are, especially if text is involved, and this is squirrel, if whenever you're using text, any letter in the text, any of any font that has a curve on it, an O, an S, those letters that have a curve at a P and the letter B, the curves in the font on the top and bottom, they're not calculated when you calculate the height of the letter. And so that is what can cause some of your fonts to, if you tell it to go to center and it just doesn't look center, well, that's because it's not using those curves and calculating what center is. So sometimes you'll take and say, okay, that's centered up, but it don't look good. Then I will then use the eyeball to put it where it looks right. So even though I move those nodes, the same amount each time there in this piece, if it doesn't look good, that's what matters, because ultimately that's what's going to determine what looks good is what does it look good. What is that physical piece going to look right? So if it don't look right, adjust it until it does look right to give you the outcome you want, especially when you're dealing with asymmetrical pieces. All right, so now back to drawing the star. And once you draw a star, I recommend, because stars are something I use quite a bit, and I've got them in my art library. But if you haven't seen me draw a star or anyone else, this is how you do it. You draw that polygon, holding your shift key, get a uniform polygon, go to shape properties, convert it to a 5-sided shape, giving you your pentagon shape. And then go to your pencil tool and start at the corner of each, or the apex of each corner, and just start drawing a line. You get that bullseye, start drawing a line, draw it up to that bullseye, draw it down to this bullseye. And you want to make sure you're right in that apex. And that when you get that bullseye with that circle in there, you should be there. And then there. And here's another trick. Right now we are in my red cut layer. If I was to go back, let's say I should go undo, and I'm gonna go to the blue layer, which is in fill mode. I didn't want that one in there. We'll put that on toolpath. Now grab my pencil tool and select the blue layer and start drawing that star out again. And the blue layer I have right now in fill mode. But right now, these are just lines and there's nothing to fill. But there, once I get those points touching and it's properly aligned there, it's close, but it's not right. So once I get it right there, as soon as those populate and fill, you have a closed shape. And I hit left click again and then right click to end. And now I don't need that toolpath anymore. So I will select it and delete it. And all of these lines that are in here that now I've got that pentagon that's inside there, I don't want that either. So now with that selected, I'm going to come over here to my offset, do a 0 offset, and delete the original objects and say, okay. And now I've got a fully filled one piece closed shape, and I've got my star. And I needed 2 stars of varying sizes. So with that selected, Control D, bring this over here and shrink it down to whatever size I want it. I'm going to go with that one. So now there's layer 4, if you will, and we'll put it on the cut path. Now I need to create my trail, the shooting star trail. And the reason I created my star first is because this star, this 4th layer, is going to be cut out and put on top. But put on top of what? Well, it's going to be put on top of an offset of the star, and then have the shooting trail going down to the base of the award. So I needed my star first to create that offset to create the trail. So now select, those are both selected, and I'm going to create an offset, an outward offset, and I want, do I want to do round or corners? I'm going to do round, and let's give it 5 millimeter offset. Am I millimeters? No, I'm in inches. So 6 point, or not 6.65. Half inch. You know what? I was trying to convert in my head from metric. I'm just going to do metric offset, and we're going to give it a 5 millimeter offset. And I'm using a round offset, and I'm going to show you why I'm using a round offset. The star is going to be glued on top of this piece, and it's going to be proud up here. And I didn't want to have that be a sharp point for 2 reasons. It could be fragile. It could break off. It could be painful. So I'm going with a rounded offset up here because I know that when I'm designing in my mind and I'm putting this together, I want those to be proud and standing above the award. So someone could inadvertently poke themselves and or those stars cut out with a laser, those points, are they're not going to hurt you, but they could be painful. So I did a rounded offset for the layer with the shooting star. Switch back. All right, and now I'll say okay. I've done a 5 millimeter offset of my stars. Done. I had my delete function turned on. So undo, offset, and there I had delete original objects turned on because I needed that for when I created the star. Now I don't want to get rid of my originals. So say okay. But I selected those 2. I'm going to ungroup them. And now I'm going to bring this piece down here. And I'm like, okay, I don't want it perfectly perpendicular or whatever. I don't want it standing up straight. I'm going to give it some action here of, it's shooting through this across the sky. And I'm going to put it about there. And now I want to create a trail that's going to take it. We're going to give it more. Give it a shooting, an arc that's going to go from here down to this corner. Because remember, this is the corner that I'm using for the alignment purposes of us, and when I'm going to assemble it. So I'm going to, you can do this. How many ways are there to do something in LightBurn? One way, the hobo way. That's the only way to do things. Wrong. 100 ways to do things. I'm going to do this one with a rectangle. So I'm going to start with my, first deselect that star, grab my rectangle tool, and come down here to this point. That's where it's going to originate. And I'm going to draw out a rectangle and come up here to where I think I want it to connect. Let's see. Do I want it? Yeah, I'm going to put this one right here. So there, it's touching the star and it's touching that corner piece. But now it's not working up here, and I need to form it. So I'm going to right click. I've got to go to my selector tool, right click, convert to a path, get my nodes. That node's where I want it to be. That node's where I want it to be. Now I'm going to move this node to where I want it to be. We'll give it up here. And this node, I want to bring it in a little bit closer. I'm like, okay. All right. Now, this was something else that was discussed in the YouTube comments. You do not have to insert a node in order to move a line. You can insert a node and then grab that node and move it where you want and hit the letter S and turn it into a curve like this. I hit it twice. Hey, how you doing? Didn't mean that. I didn't mean. Go back. Okay. You can come here and hit the letter M, and that put a node in the middle, and I can hit the letter S to make it a smooth or a curve. That's what these tangents are. Now that's going to be a curve. If I move this node, it comes out in the way of a curve. And then you can move these to straighten that curve out and make it look like it overlaps. But you don't have to do that. You can, but you don't have to. And then when you're in node editing, if I've got that node there highlighted and I hit undo, it's actually going to undo that over here. It's not having to do with that. If you deselect any of that and just keep hitting undo, undo, that'll put you back. I don't even want that node there. I'm going to undo that and undo that. It's gone. So now I'm back to the original it was. There's no nodes there. Don't need them. Just get your cursor there hovering over that line and just drag it up. Get it overlapping that star, because we're going to weld this piece. And it doesn't matter what shape it is. If I had it way up here, it doesn't matter, because we're going to weld those together. And anything that's, as long as it's overlapping, it will give you the desired result. But you don't want it overlapping and going past it, because then that would give you that bulge on the side of your star. So just get it overlapping there. And now, since you've seen that you don't need a node to create the curve, and I want this piece to curve out here beyond this piece, I'm just going to come over here and grab this and start dragging it out. And then make this one the same kind of curve. And if I want to have a little bit more flair to it, because there, I don't like that. And then I'm like, okay. So I'm actually going to, in fact, I think I did on that. Yeah. See there, I went on the outside of that. Yeah. So I'm going to bring this node up here and bring this one up here. And I can now move this line to get it past that. And yeah, now that looks better. That looks like, because it's skinny here, it's farther away and it gets bigger and wider. That's getting closer and closer to you. All right. So that's fully encompassing that point. And I've got, in fact, we'll bring this one in just a little bit. And that just gives more perception that it's further away. It was way away, far away, and it got closer and bigger to you. So now I can go back and say that's selected, hold my shift button and select my star and weld that together. And that gives me that right there. And now that star would come down here, rotate it properly. And I'm going to talk to you about how to place this more than just physical placement in a minute. But because this is just a random piece or an individual piece that's going to be glued on top of that. So that gives me that. But now I want to give it that whoosh, those motion lines, right? So to do that, that's why I placed my star on that position, so I know where the star is going to be. So now I'm going to come back over here and grab my pencil tool. And this is not going to be on a cut path. It's going to be an engrave. So I'm going to start here. And if all of this stuff here bothers you when you're in your design mode and you don't want to see it, well, you've already designed them. Select that, put it on a tool path, and then turn your tool path off so you don't see it. Now I want my motion lines. So I'm going to go to my pencil tool and go to my black layer. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say, I want 3 lines. So I'm going to start. So what I'm looking at is this distance from here. In fact, we're going to draw a temporary line. This distance to this distance. And I want to have 3 motion lines, and I want to have them spaced equally apart from each other. So from here to here, didn't mean to do that, from there to there and there to there, it's not quite equal. And I'm doing this by eyeball. You could actually go really crazy and measure that, divide it by thirds or whatever. But if I come here and here, then that looks like that's pretty accurate. So, and then, but then down here, I'm going to have them equally spaced again. So that means they're getting closer and closer together. So in my mind's eye, I have drawn that line and created those equal distances. So I'm going to delete all that and go back to my pencil tool. And that was my end goal. And we can move them around even after you've drawn them. So if I come down here, or come up there rather, and if I look down here, the thirds is going to be probably about right there. And then up here, it's going to be about there. And about there. And I think I actually did 3 on the other one. But we're going to do right here, we're going to do this. But so I drew straight lines. Now I'm going to go to my node editing, select that piece, and then just grab that and shift it. And then when you're in node editing, when you're trying to select a piece, like you got to get right on it. You can go back and select it and go back to node editing. But if you're really good with your mouse and you get right on it, you can grab it while you're in node editing and bring that piece out to there. And now that I've done that, I'm like, okay, well, that don't look too bad down here, but there's not enough action going on. All right. Well, if that's the case, I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to move it over. And I'll move this one over just a little bit. And then I'm going to draw another line. That'll be about there. Come down here. Go back to my node editing. Grab that one, bend it. And position-wise, now I can start moving them around to where I feel like, okay, maybe that's too much curve. So bring that back. I didn't want to do that. Hit undo and go to node editing and bring that curve in. And now it's like, okay, I'm not getting the desired curve that I want. Well, that's what these little bars are. You can grab this and change the degree of the curve. And I even would maybe this one's not going to be as tall. That one's down here. And it's a little bit high in the middle too, and that's fine. I'm going to move that over there. And then again, this is all what looks good to you. And I'm just showing you the process that I used to create this. And that's starting, oh, I just didn't let go soon enough. That's starting to look pretty good there to me. Now, that's just a line. And I don't want just a single line engraved there. But I use the line tool to get the exact shape that I want and the curves that I want. And then I will say, okay, select all 3 of those, go back to my offset tool. That's way too big. And then we're in millimeters. I'm going to do an outward offset. And if I go 0.5 millimeter outward, that'll be a total of 1 millimeter thick because it's going outward in both directions. And then delete the original. Now, when you're doing an offset of a line, in not all cases, but a lot of times you're going to want to make sure, definitely on lines though, you want to make sure you delete your original, because if you don't, when your original line will be there, and if you put this in a fill mode, it's going to fill everything except your original line. So make sure in an instance like this that you turn on your delete original objects and say okay. And now that's going to be a solid fill. If I go back and do the offset and don't turn on the delete original objects and say okay, and I look at my preview, go in here and look, well, it's so small you can't see it. It's not showing up there. But if you do not delete your originals, it will leave that line in there, and it could create an issue with the outcome of your engraving. So offsets, delete the originals, and okay. And so now there's that. Turn that back on, and now you've got one side there. And then you're going to do the same thing over here to create that other shooting star effect. And then down here for the nameplate, put those back on the cut path. Come on, mouse froze. It's 4 o'clock and my phone hasn't rang, and I was expecting it to ring, and I'm getting upset. All right. Corners. I don't want corners. And I've got corners on these. So I'm going to come over here to my radius tool. And when I first started using LightBurn, a lot of these values, like, what is that? What does that mean? What does that value mean? Well, radius tool was one of the ones that I struggled with to figure out what it was. It's actually quite simple. We're in millimeters. And if I look at my ruler, and I measure this right here, that's 19.05 millimeters. And since we'll say 19 millimeters. Half of 19 is what? 9.5. So if I were to put a node in the middle right here by hitting the letter M for middle, and now I'm using my ruler to measure that. So that node right there broke that up in half. And there it is. It's 9.53 millimeters there and 9.53 millimeters there. And if I wanted to have a perfectly rounded piece right there, that's the value I would need to put in that radius tool, 9.53. But you have to make sure that you have at least 9.53 millimeters in this direction and this direction, because that's how your radius is created. So if I come down here, select my radius tool and put in 9.53, and then come up here to my radius right there, it's going to give you that full semicircle radius around that piece, because it's going to fill up that distance. I don't want that big of a radius there, and I don't need that node there. I hit the delete button. I went to hit the letter D to delete the node. But I just want to put a small little radius on there, and I will go with, that's what that distance is how far down one side do you want that radius to be. So I'm just going to give it a radius of 3 millimeters. So that's going to be 3 millimeters that way, up the side and down the bottom on each of the 4 corners. Just to round it over just a little bit. So now I'm going to come in here and draw out my rectangle that's going to be the nameplate. And if it was 19 millimeters and I want 4 millimeters on each side, that's 8. That's 11 millimeters approximate in height. So if I tell it to be 11 millimeters high, and you're like, okay, well, now you, from a design standpoint, and you want to see what it's going to look like, okay, that distance was 19 millimeters. And if I got 4 millimeters on each side, that's 19 subtract 8, and 11 millimeters is going to center up and look nice with a 4 millimeter perimeter around it. But if you want to see that, you want to position it exactly in the center of that, because you've welded that other larger rectangle to that oblong or that trapezoidal shape. There's nowhere to say I want to center it to that original rectangle, because it's gone. So what I do then is I look for known corners, and this one up here is a known corner. I will draw me I'll select a rectangle, or the rectangle tool, come right there to where I know I'm intersected with that known corner, and then come down here until it intersects right there. And now that's exactly what I need it to be. So now I can say, I want that piece to be vertically centered in this piece right there. and that's going to show me that amount of gap around there. So, okay, that looks good. And now you can say that and tell it, well, I don't know if vertical center is going to work or not, because, well, it should, because we went with the same 6.5 inches. It should. And now tell it go vertical center. And now that's perfectly centered up. And now that was a 3 millimeter radius there. And 3 millimeters is probably going to be too big here. So I'm going to go to my radius tool and just tell it to do a 2 millimeter. There, 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 and there. And get rid of that little piece that I used just to help me eyeball it and get it figured out. Now you've got your nameplate that you can use to put whatever you want, person's name, their whatever their award is. And we get all the layers. There's 1, 2, the shooting star. Yeah. So that showed you the process that I used to create that design, this design. And it turned out really nice. I'm really happy with it. And then I've got their badges on there, community service appreciation. And then on the back, I engraved thanks for going above and beyond. And that's nice and dark and you can see it real well. But look what else you can see. If you look close enough, I've got my logo in there. And then on top of in addition to my logo, I've signed it and it's dated, but it's done in a different power. And that engraving almost matches the wood grain. So it's there, but it's a ghost engraving. I wanted this message to be what you see. And you can achieve that if you're in the practice of doing test burns and figuring out what powers and speeds will do what, because this is the same piece of wood, same laser did it, and I got 2 different results by just varying the speed and power. All right. Any questions? We're an hour in and I've got to wrap this up. I've got some other pressing things I got to get taken care of. I need to start calling people and fussing at them because they haven't called me. Any questions on what we've gone over today, or any questions, period, why you've got me? Any questions? This is an advantage right now because we got a small audience today. Ain't nobody going to be here tuning in. And I knew there wasn't, but I just didn't have time to record a video. So anybody? No, Chris, not waiting for the lotto. I wish that would be nice. Right now, winning the lotto would help. But in order to win the lotto, you got to play the lotto. Hell, I can't even afford to play the lotto. I think, and that's a sad mistake. You know, gambling is fun if you can afford it. The majority of the people that are doing it can't afford it. And they're hoping that they win it because they need it. And then when they do win it, 3 weeks later, they're broke again, if not sooner. All right. Any questions? Last call for questions. Like I said, this file is on hobowithwood.com. If you don't want to go to the trouble of creating something like this on your own and you like this specific piece, that piece is there minus the badge. The badge does not come with the design on Hobo with Wood because that's not my artwork. It's not their original artwork either because I really cleaned up a few places, but it still wasn't mine, so I'm not going to include it and or sell it. All right. Questions from the peanut gallery? Nothing? All right, guys. I am going to wrap this up, get out of here, and I'm going to change hats. How small have you successfully made a living hinge? Yeah, it's crazy. I hardly throw away anything. And if you could see the rest of this shop, you would believe it. Because that piece in the beginning of the video said, oh, that's a mistake. Guess where that is going to be in, another 2 weeks, unless I need that piece for scrap. That's what my skeletons are laying on the floor. And when I need something random, I'll start digging through skeletons to find something. But I didn't clean my desk up until a week ago. And the one thing that I cleaned up, because I said, I'm not going to need this anymore, are all of my living hinge examples. And lo and behold, I just threw those away. And what does somebody ask? And they leave it to Chris. Let's see how small you make a living hinge. I think the smallest successful one I did was about 1.5 millimeter spacing. And by doing those line intervals at like 1.5 millimeters apart, and doing them really tight, I was able to make that thing loop around the finger and back over on top of itself again. I mean, it was small, but they're still fragile. Living hinges are neat, and you can accomplish a lot of things with living hinges, but regardless how small you make them, how big you make them, living hinges are fragile. And depending on where they're going to be used and how they're going to be used, it could end up with a bad result, or up 2 months from now. The and y'all funny with your comments. Let's see here. Yeah, I had a friend that needed the dog collar display, and she wanted something to hold her dog collar and show it off. And this dog was apparently quite large, because the dog collar, even in its smallest position, was gargantuan. We've all seen the dog collar displays where you put them in a little 5 or 8 inch shadow box, and you put a collar through there and you strap it on, and there it is, and it's nice and neat. Maybe you can put a little photo in there in a little 8 inch or 10 inch frame. Well, this thing was, even with the collar as tight as it could possibly get, it was still measuring close to 12 or 15 inches in diameter. And I made this, and all you guys funny comments, and I never seen it. And then once you started making the comments, I seen it. At first glance, people were like, what are you doing there? What are you showing us? What are you making? And somebody made the comment, it's like, look like he's showing off somebody's panties. And I didn't see it until you pointed it out. And they're like, now, where did all those photos go? Oh, let's go to the Hobo with Wood group. Duh. Go to the group. Go to the group. Go to the group. Group. And there we go. And now the group. Group. There it is. All right, switch. So that is a large dog collar. And at first glance, people were like, wait a minute, what are you doing here to us? They were like, is that somebody's panties or thong? But people also commented like, man, living hinge would have looked nice in there. But I didn't know where it was going to be displayed, how it was going to be displayed. And a living hinge was an option. Have one come up and wrap around here, and have a second one come down. And I was afraid that in time that it would get snapped, break, come apart. So I ended up going with the slats. Living hinges, and they take forever to cut. Forever. Let's see here. I'm doing a restoration on the farm truck, working on a hood. Yeah, I was and grab one. Oh my! For those who haven't seen it, I've got I think it was a 53 Ford, and I opted, and I designed this one. Originally, this was made for a restaurant, and it was a coaster holder and a condiment holder for coasters and salt and pepper and stuff like that set on the table. And so that had to be open. And then it got turned into a, what do y'all call them? Shelf setters or something. And the bed was filled with seasonal objects, pumpkins or whatever for Thanksgiving, Christmas tree for Christmas, obviously, and then Elf on the Shelf set in the front of the truck. So again, it had to be open. But Chris is saying he's modifying it to put a hood on it, and so he's looking to do a living hinge across there. And I started to do that to where I actually enclose the whole cab, living hinge, come up and do another living hinge on top, and then close the whole thing. But I had more requests for just the open pieces for shelf setters and for condiment holders, so I just never got around to doing it. Someone else sent me an email or a request about wanting the sanding disc holder that we designed in a video a long time ago. I'm going to get this uploaded and make it available. I'll probably put it on hobowithwood.com and just put it out there for free. I got a lot of free files on hobowithwood.com. So if you've not gone over and checked those out, go peruse those files, because there are several files in there that are free. And this one was made for organizing sanding disc. And depending on how you wanted to mount it, you could put different hangers or whatever. But the little 6-inch sanding disc organizers. So that'll be coming on hobowithwood.com. Thank you, Jay. That plaque turned out gorgeous. Well done. Thank you. I hope the troopers appreciate it. I had 2 troopers who really did, as it says on the back, went above and beyond Call of Duty and helped me out with the situation. And I really appreciate what they did. And I made these to send to them. And I was hoping to get them out today, but I needed to put another coat of finish on it. Russ says, I made that truck for a local auto body shop for business cards. Yep. It's a lot of uses, but I found that, and you can still use it as a business card holder if you put the roof on it and the hood on it. But being just open, it still lends it to being used for more things. Chris says, I'm even going to have clear acrylic windows just to have to get the kerf right on the half thicknesses. Well, you got more patience than I've got sometimes. And sometimes I get really, really crazy, and I spend a lot of time. And if you when you get my files, you'll see they are detail oriented. I will make sure that especially if it's something I'm going to sell, that all my I's are dotted and all my T's are crossed. And anyway, all right. I've got to go change hats and start swinging some hammers. Hobo with Wood is not going to be playing with lasers as much as he'd like to. I'm going to go start swinging some hammers. I'm going to be taking out part of a wall today and creating a doorway. And happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, happy, 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 joy, joy. There you go. That was a song that was from Ren and Stimpy, and not created by AI. And so now it's not even original. So I can't, you had original song in your thing. No, I didn't. It wasn't original. Ren and Stimpy. Go Ren. All right. I'm out of here. I'm going to go to work. And thank you for watching. And probably Thursday will be something similar, addressing things that people have asked me with help on how to do something. Because if one person's got an issue or a question with something they've seen me do, they're probably not the only ones. Yeah, Chris, I took the window out yesterday, and that was fun. Swinging a hammer and doing demolition can be very therapeutic. The key, the trick that I'm doing though is yesterday I took out the window. It was one of the original windows from 1900s. Had those great big old huge. I don't know if they had them down there in Australia, but here they have weighted windows, and they've this huge lead weight on each of the window panes or the window sashes that counterbalance the window so you could open it and close it. And so it's a massive, massive piece taken. I was able to save one of them, the sashes, but a screw on a piece of wood got the top piece and ruined it. But as I was tearing it out, taking it straight, taking everything out, and because it's in here in the house, so taking it all out to the curb for hauling off, cleaning as I go to try and there is no in my remodeling work. There is none of. Oh, don't need that. Can't get away with that. I need to keep it the work area there that I'm doing as clean as possible. All right. Yep. Made lots of money on the lead weights as a kid. Oh, okay. Yep. Connie says her house is 1919. Well, I got you by just a few years. This was 1900, 1901. I just got here and you are leaving. Was it something I said? No, it wasn't what you said. It's just the fact your deodorant's not quite up to par today. Shower. No, catch it all on the replay. And since you just got here, what we did is I showed this and showed how I designed it, how I put it together, all real quick with LightBurn, and talked about the reason that I do duplicates whenever I subtract from different things. Just go back and watch the replay. It's going to be good. Answered a lot of questions from YouTube comments. Well, Chris says, I used to live in a convict-built house. Well, since Australia was a penal colony, wasn't everything in Australia built by convict? Technically? Looking for a comment. Looking for a comment. No comment, Chris. And I don't know how long that was, but yeah, I guess you're right. Because that's the one thing that I remember from history was Australia was a penal colony. Am I stalling? No, I was waiting to see if Chris had any more comments about what we were talking about. I was being silly. Now I'm not stalling because I got too much to do. I'm going to go attack this wall. This wall is, and I'm able to do this because it's currently inside the house, but it used to be the exterior wall of the house. It was the back wall of the house, and the house used to have a porch on it. And at some time in history, they enclosed that porch, and you would never know it from the outside at this point. But inside, there was an exterior window there until yesterday. I got that out. And now I'm going to come over where that hole is, come over about 2 feet and put a doorway in there. And because it's the exterior wall of the house, it's also a load-bearing wall. So I got to take all that in consideration. But fortunately, it's out at the outermost corner of the wall. It's not in the center of the house. So the load is there as minimal as it could possibly be. All right. I'm leaving. You guys have a good one. Thursday, like I said, I don't have time to record videos right now. So I'll probably, address some questions like this and have something to do for Thursday. And I will see you then. It'll be most likely live. And I don't know what time. I don't expect. Here we got 47 of you. And there was, I think at one time we seen up to 50. I'm expecting small crowds for these little things. But the replays are there, and hopefully they'll get the reviews and it'll keep the analytics going while I accomplish what all I got going on in my world. So thank you for your support. Thank you to all the patrons. Your support keeps this channel alive. If you're not a patron, consider becoming a patron on patreon.com/hobowithwood. Really, 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 really appreciate your support. Gold gets all my digital files for free. Silver gets 80% off, 60% off for bronze. I'm out of here. Gonna go swing a hammer. We'll see you guys Thursday. I'm hitting end stream.